Well, good evening and welcome. I'm Craig Middleton, the Executive Director of the Presidio Trust, and I am very pleased to be joined tonight with our organizational partners and the leaders of those two organizations, Frank Dean, General Superintendent of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, and Greg Moore, the President and CEO of the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy. We're really excited to be here, and I know that many of you have been following this project as it's begun to evolve. And so thank you for that, and thank you for your involvement in that. And for those of you who are new to this, welcome. I think this is going to be great fun together, and we're going to look back on this as a great time. I'll just start by saying that it would be difficult to overemphasize the importance of this project. It's transformational. And at the very outset, I want to thank all of those people who have been advocates for a Presidio Parkway approach to the replacement of Doyle Drive. And this has been a decades-long bit of advocacy. And I'd like to thank also the transportation agencies at the state level, the local level, and the regional level for helping us with this opportunity to create 13 acres of new, unbelievable parkland in the middle of the Presidio. So thank you, those of you. There's no question, it's dark right now, but had you been here an hour and a half earlier, you would have realized, as you probably already know, that this is one of the most stunning locations in the world. And it is an incredible opportunity to do a few things, to bind the Presidio back together, to stitch it back together by joining Crissy Field with the historic Main Post, and to create a new, compelling experience of the Golden Gate. A brand new experience of the Golden Gate. It's an opportunity to include people in the creation of that experience, and in doing that, welcome new people to this great park, people who don't ordinarily enjoy it. So we're hoping to bring a lot of people together in this process. It's essential that we do this right. We only get one chance. And it needs to be done right in a way that honors the place, that celebrates the Presidio's natural heritage and cultural heritage, that welcomes people, and that stands the test of time. So to do this right, we have enlisted the best team we could possibly find, and I think you will agree with me that James Corner Field Operations is about as good as we can do. The High Line, Tongva Park, you name it, they've done it. It's a great team, and of course they're teamed up with our local architects, EHDD, and we are thrilled to have this team. So to do it right, we got the good team to start with. To do it right, we're engaging with you tonight and throughout the year, up through September, we'll be holding workshops, not only here in the Presidio, but all over town. And so I encourage you to tell your friends about them, to come, to involve yourself, and to broaden the audience for this project. It's an exciting time for the Presidio. I think we've all been around quite a long time here, and this is one of the most exciting things that we've ever done. So I think for everyone who loves the Presidio, who loves the Golden Gate, and for our partners, this is an exciting time for our partnership as well. Let's savor this opportunity. Let's have some fun over the next few months. Let's create something really beautiful together. And welcome again. I want to introduce my partners, Greg Moore and Frank Dean, to introduce us, and Greg first and then Frank, and then turn it over to my colleague Michael Boland and to Jim Corner, and we'll get started. So again, welcome, and Greg, I'm sure you'd like to say a few words.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for being here tonight. Once again, a full house at the observation post. And as I look out at the room and see all the faces out there ready to engage about this new opportunity, I can't help but be reminded through the history of the Presidio how community engagement and community leaders have made the park what it is today. If you think back to 1989 when the closure was announced, how the community rallied then to save this national park and create the Presidio Trust, the creation of Crissy Field and a groundswell of support that made that happen, the Presidio Trails and Overlooks campaign, and now the beautiful results that we see throughout the Presidio, and all the different chapters of public engagement here. It's really a blessing for Craig and Frank and I to know that people like you are here in an evening to help make this your park and help make it the best park for our community and for our nation. So my simple encouragement is stay involved. There are a lot of different ways. One of them is attending these meetings and giving us your ideas about, as Craig said, how to take advantage of this amazing opportunity. You can also volunteer in many different ways at this park. There are thousands of volunteers helping every year. And our role at the Conservancy is not only to be a partner to the Trust in helping bring this project to reality, but the challenge of raising $51 million to build this project. So that is the project budget. We're about $34 million along the way. And I will be shameless to suggest that anybody in this room who would like to contribute, please come see me during the sessions. So we know that if the vision is right, which you will help us accomplish, that the resources in this community, which is so generous, believes so fundamentally in the values of the Presidio, that we will be successful. And by being here tonight, I think you epitomize the fundamental values of this place, the values of service, of patriotism, of democracy that are at the core of the Presidio and will be at the core of the new Presidio Parklands. Thank you so much.
Well, good evening. It's great to see you all here. I'm glad you decided to come out and join us tonight. As most of you know, that if you're regular users of the park, the Presidio is really almost in the center, geographic center of the Golden Gate National Parks that we have here in the Bay Area. And the park is filled with treasured destinations and wonderful places to visit, but probably no more iconic of a place has sort of become part of the fabric, I think, of the quality of life here in the Bay Area is Crissy Field. And you know, we have the bay in the foreground and Mount Tamalpais on the northern horizon. It's just an iconic place to visit, and it's now visited by 1 million people a year. So we have a chance here with this project to really connect the magic that's happening down at Crissy Field with the rest of the main post in the Presidio. And the great things that are occurring in the Presidio with Crissy Field. That artificial divider, that freeway that was put in is going to be submerged with this project, and the landscape that will evolve is just going to be wonderful. So I'm really thrilled that we have a great team to help us, guide us on this way. We obviously need your input tonight and along the way, but Jim Corner and his wonderful team are here to work with us and show us the possibilities to make this place equal to the scenery. So with that, I'd like to ask Michael Boland, who's the Director of Planning and Projects for the Presidio Trust, to come on up and get us started. Michael?
All right, thanks, Frank. Good. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. So if I could direct your attention up here to the slides, I just want to talk a bit about where we've been and the importance of tonight. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here tonight, because this is a really important moment where we shift from the first phase of this project, known as the Imagine phase, into the design phase. So just a little bit about how this project has come about. We started last spring. It's hard for me to believe it was last spring when we started this conversation about this site, but we started last spring, and we began with a couple of simple goals about this site, about what this site could be in the life of the Presidio and the Golden Gate National Parks, and I just wanted to talk about them briefly, just to refresh everybody's memory. We talked about the way in which this site needs to honor the significance of the Presidio, and by that, we're really talking about honoring the reasons why the Presidio was preserved as a national park, honor the history of the site, and honor the men and women that have served our country here through the ages. Second goal has to do with honoring the magnificent setting, this incredible spot. And we heard a lot of feedback from the public about the importance of that whatever we do here is simple and serene and graceful and elegant, and that it take advantage of and embrace but not overpower the incredible setting in which this site is set. The third goal that we set is, that Craig mentioned too, is the idea of welcoming all. That National parks were created in the urban environment to bring national park experiences to a broad cross-section of people in our community, and that this Presidio and these new Presidio parklands, this site, because of its location in the Presidio, can form a really important function at welcoming a broad cross-section of people and help us move further down the road of achieving this vision we have for this national park. Fourth, we talked about the importance of integrating the natural landscape of Crissy Field and the cultural landscape of the Main Post. That this is a site where these two very iconic Presidio landscapes come together, and that it's a kind of knuckle between them, and that it's really important that whatever we do there honors what's unique about both of them and celebrates them, but also creates a good connection between them. We've talked a lot and heard a lot from the public about how important it is that we take advantage of the opportunity of the undergrounding of this roadway to create a strong connection between Crissy Field and the Main Post, the two parts of the Presidio that we've always imagined would be the most public parts of the Presidio. Fifth, that we create the best place possible to begin your Presidio experience. You know, one of the things that we've heard over the years is that one of the barriers that prevents the Presidio from becoming a place that really serves a broad cross-section of people is that people don't know where to begin their experience. You know, most national parks, there are a limited number of entries. You come into the park, you go to the visitor center, and you know where to begin your experience. And we haven't really had that. So part of this project is very much about creating that base camp that visitors can use to begin and end their experience of the Presidio and the Golden Gate National Parks. Sixth, that we use this site and the potential of it to house new programs and expanded programming, particularly down at the Crissy Field Center, to provide exceptional environmental learning opportunities that serve a larger number of young people in our community and allow us to dramatically expand the impact of our national park, particularly in the lives of young people. So many urban young people have no access to the outdoors. And one of the fundamental things that we all value is the opportunity that national parks like the Presidio present to urban populations to begin to develop a connection to the outdoors and to national park experiences. So these were 6 ideas that we put on the table very early in this process and that the public has given us a great deal of feedback about. And frankly, we've learned a lot about the nuances of this, but, gravity, go figure. But I would say that what we've learned is that these ideas have really resonated with many people in the public. We've learned more about them. We've frankly gotten a lot of really important nuanced information about them. But I think generally what we've heard is that this feels right, that we want a place that's serene, that creates a welcoming portal to people, that leverages the site, that doesn't compete with the incredible setting, that honors the history of the place, and that creates an incredibly important and wonderful welcoming portal for a broad cross-section of people. So here's the site as it was. Of course, this is the old Doyle Drive that you see. Okay, there it is, the old Doyle Drive. And we know that Caltrans, in the course of rebuilding Doyle, is going to give us this raw material. These 10 acres of new tunnel top parklands, 3 acres of new land around the Crissy Field Center. Great raw material that you can see connects the main parade and the Main Post down to Crissy Field and the northern waterfront of the Presidio. And this project has 3 specific components. The first is this 3 acres of learning landscape that includes the Crissy Field Youth Campus and also the associated educational facilities in the surrounding environment. The second element is the 10 acres of tunnel top parkland that are the gift that the Doyle Drive project is going to give us, this new connection over the top of the tunnels. And the third element is the new Presidio Visitor Center, Plaza, this base camp that I mentioned where people can begin and end their experience. So the scope that we've given our design team is to look at this area and to give us a compelling vision for how it can serve the public and the park. So just to remind everybody of the time frame of this, we launched this process in spring of 2014 when we launched the Imagine phase. We put out an RFQ. We got 25 proposals from around the world in response to that. We selected 5 teams that completed different, very unique and very compelling visions for the Presidio. And we spent the summer testing those ideas with the public. And a broad cross-section of people have come to the Presidio and participated in a variety of ways and given us the feedback and informed our decision to select the team that we have, Jim Corner, Field Operations, combined with EHDD and a collection of other consulting groups. We are at this really important pivot point tonight between the Imagine and Design phases, the beginning of 2015, and you get a sense of how this project will unfold. 2015 is very much focused on the design phase, coming up with the compelling design vision for what this site wants to be. 2016 through 2018 will be focused on implementation of the project, and in 2018 I look forward to seeing all of you at the ribbon cutting out on the tunnel tops sometime mid-year. So we have gotten an incredible amount of community participation during this Imagine phase and heard from a broad cross-section of people an amazing collection of ideas. Now, Jim hasn't proposed a zip line yet, but I think the point is that we've heard an incredible array of great ideas, some ideas that probably will never happen. But what's really incredible to me is the way a consensus emerged, both about which team we should select and also about the character of the place. And for me, as somebody that's trying to interpret the public's visions for a site, which so often in the public landscape, frankly, are competing or appear to be competing, it's very reassuring to know that we launched this design process with a huge amount of alignment from the public about what this site should be. So during the design phase, we get to build on a very solid platform of community engagement. To date, over 5,000 people have participated in this process in some way, either attending the forums, coming to the gallery on the ground floor of Building 103 in the Presidio, attending the forums that we held in the gallery, participating in the online tool and sending us letters. And for those of you who are interested, all of the input that we've gotten has been consolidated and is posted on our website. So you can go and see many of the specific letters we got and a compilation of every comment that we've received in this process. And it's incredible and really exciting. And I think for me what really comes through is the incredible excitement that this site engenders in the community about the potential of the site and what it can be. So here we are in design, and there are 3 phases in the design process: concept design, where the big moves solidify; schematic design, where you begin to get a lot of detail about the moving parts of the project, what is the character and feeling of the site; and then design development, where you really focus on the materiality and get down to real nuts and bolts about what the site's going to look like. This will stretch throughout 2015, and there are a variety of ways the public can get involved. And I want to build on the comments that we heard earlier from our 3 amigos, that there are a number of ways for the public to get involved, and I really encourage everybody to get involved and stay involved. The first is there are going to be a series of Presidio workshops through September, essentially every month. And I hope that everybody picked this up on their way in. And if you turn to the back of it, there's a list of all the workshops. The dates have been set and the locations. Each of them has a topic, so you can select the ones that are of interest to you based on your particular interests about the site. But this is an opportunity for the public to come and respond in a forum much like this to the emerging ideas. In addition to that, in this phase, during the design phase, we're going to take the show on the road, and we're going to go out into the community, and we're going to have a series of community workshops out in the community. And if you look again on the back here, you will see that between Workshop 2 and Workshop 3, there are a series of off-site forums that have been scheduled already. And as this process unfolds, we will continue to schedule those off-site forums between the other workshops. So that way, if somebody misses one of these formal workshops, they can come to one of the off-site workshops out in the community. And these are scattered throughout the community so that we can get the participation of a broad cross-section of people throughout San Francisco in this process. In addition to that, we've retooled the gallery on the ground floor of Building 103 in the Presidio and redubbed it the new Presidio Parklands Design Lab. The idea is that every month we'll get new material at these workshops, and we'll take that material and we'll retool the design lab so that all of the latest information about the evolving design concepts or programmatic concepts will be available. And anybody that misses one of the workshops can come to the design lab and they can provide their ideas and input to the process. That'll be open 7 days a week, and it's staffed as it has been so that there'll be staff there that can guide people through the emerging ideas about the project. And then we're going to continue a number of things that occurred during the Imagine phase. Throughout that phase, we had regular Friday tours that were very popular. I encourage you to come and bring your friends. We had a whole series of group presentations targeted to particular audiences. If you belong to a community group or organization that you think might be interested in this project, I encourage you to contact us and set up a group presentation that we can schedule at your convenience, either out in the landscape or in the design lab. And lastly, on our website, there are tools that you can use to actually provide us with input to this process if you don't live in this area or can't get to any of the public meetings. We just want to make sure that people throughout the community can participate in a diversity of ways so we get the benefit of everybody's ideas about what this site should be. Again, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, and I'd like to turn the microphone over to James Corner, who will take us through tonight's workshop. Thank you so much for coming.
So, it's a great honor to be here. We feel a great sense of responsibility now that we were selected to move forward. We're very grateful to the Presidio Trust, to the Golden Gate National Park Conservancy, to the National Park Service for selecting us, as well as to all of you for all of your input. We feel like we're beginning tonight, but really we're not. I mean, we've been at it for 8 months already. So, and I've met many people, many faces out there are familiar to me. This has been a process, and it will continue to be a process over the next few months as the design evolves and continues to take shape. We do feel that this is a very special place on the one hand, a place that deserves reverence and a light touch and a very careful and sensitive approach. But on the other hand, don't forget what it is today. It's a bit of a mess. So yes, the larger environment that we're looking at, the Golden Gate Bridge, the bay, the Presidio lands, yes, we do have some magnificent resources here, but this particular tunnel top is a mess. We can do better, and we can also do better than just covering it with dirt and throwing down some grass seed. We can make this into an extraordinary place, and that's the possibilities for this to become that extraordinary place is something that I'd like to just talk through quickly in the next few minutes, and then invite questions from the audience. These are the tunnels that are being built. You can see Doyle Drive, the existing Doyle Drive there on the left. When the tunnels are completed, the drive will be moved into the tunnels, and then all of that land becomes open for new parkland. And you can see on the right, the Presidio lands now can extend out over those tunnel tops and then come down to Mason Road and down to join seamlessly with Crissy Marsh and Crissy Field. This is another view. You see again the magnificence of potential here, that all of this land here is basically what we're looking at, extending the Presidio out over the tunnel tops with now a raised sort of platform that will give you raised views back to the city as well as across out to the bay, and then down to the lower level landscape. This is the Crissy Field Learning Center, Mason Road, and Crissy Field Marsh. And one more view here, looking at the same tunnels that we're going to be building the park over and bringing down to the marsh. So this is a pretty dilapidated, poor, shoddy situation. It's not special, but we're going to make it special together through thinking about how we can create a place that's public, open, and can really leverage all of the resources that are around this very special place. I can't also overstate the significance of this connection. Right now you have one community of users in the Presidio who are familiar with the Presidio and use the Presidio for its various events, and another community of users down on the bayfront using Crissy Field and Crissy Marsh and the Bayfront Promenade. Those are two different user groups in a sense, and once this new connection happens, there's going to be new opportunities for exchange and interchange between these different social groups, different social interests. Once the park is built over the tunnel tops, we believe it creates a significant new center on the peninsula, the San Francisco Peninsula, a raised platform with all of these views looking back to the National Cemetery, the Crissy Overlook and Fort Point, the Golden Gate Bridge, across the bay to Angel Island, to Alcatraz, and back to the city skyline. It really becomes in many ways a center point. And if you think about it, many of the uses in the Presidio today and in the Crissy Field, Crissy Marsh and Bayfront are linear. They're linear pathways with strolling and running and cycling and these sorts of activities. There are spread out activities on the lawns, on the parade ground and on Crissy Field. But now this becomes a center, becomes a punctuation point, a place where people can meet and greet and become a sort of symbolic and meaningful center for the whole area. In this sense, we call it a central connection point, allowing for new pathways to connect the uplands, the wooded and forested uplands, with the central main post, with the new park that we're designing, with the lower park areas. And as such, it begins to become a place that connects all of these disparate rooms, these park-like rooms that host different functions, different types of people, different uses and different programs. All of these now become connected and arrayed around this new center point. So this is an extraordinarily significant project, not only in transforming tunnel tops, but in actually making a psychologically new geographical and significant center for all of these various parts that in many ways are fragmented and disparate at the moment. The other thing I'd like to just point out, doesn't need pointing out, it's obvious, but so much about this new site will of course be about what we call scenery and panorama. You'll simply enjoy being in this place to see everything that's around you, to see the Golden Gate Bridge, to turn your body around and do a 360-degree turn, look back into the Presidio grounds, see the downtown skyline, the Palace of Fine Arts and Alcatraz in the Bay, be able to have these extraordinary world-class, unique vistas of nature and the context of San Francisco in the Bay with the bridge, fantastic skies, sometimes a nice day, sometimes a foggy and misty day. That's part of the atmospheric charm of this place. Sometimes inclement weather with rain and clouds and storms. That's all part of what we think this place is all about. Secondly, the importance of nature and ecology. This is a place with extraordinary natural resources, where the Pacific meets the continent. You have significant upland stands of trees, upland woodlands and forests, coastal bluff trails that are really quite extraordinary. You get a real sense of being out in big nature. You might even come across a coyote. The dunes, the marsh landscape, the wetlands, again, significant habitat for birds and insects, and all the way down to the beaches and down to the water interface. And here I like these cairns at Torpedo Wharf. So it's an enormous ecosystem of incredibly varied habitat and significant range. And to people who are interested in nature and care for nature, it's a very significant place. It's also a significant place in terms of history and service. Of course, you know the Presidio has a great history. The main post as a military base, the barracks and the main parade ground, the historic reenactments today, and the homage and respect paid to service historically is very important here. The National Cemetery is beautiful, but very special and sacred. And of course, there's a lot of archaeological work going on even today at the main post, with things being continually dug up and found. And thirdly, it's an important place for community and activity. This is a place that's very meaningful for people to get together for, on the one hand, health and fitness, strolling, cycling, rollerblading, out on your own or out in a group, getting together, enjoying the weather, enjoying the weekend, flying kites, having picnics, getting together, celebrating public art. The Presidio hosts great events, picnics, markets, festivals, food days, and events that go into the evening. even camping in the hills. I mean, what an extraordinary array of uses that this place enjoys. So leveraging the article that John King wrote in the Chronicle, was it yesterday, he actually likened this place to what he called an ecology of places and an ecology of ideologies. And what he was really referring to is that there's so many different ideas here about what this place can be, whether it should be a place that's more about nature, or whether it's more a place that should be about history, or whether it's more a place that should be about health and fitness, or whether it's a place that's about community and events. All of these different ideas are sort of concentrated in this new center point, this new park that we're trying to build. So, in our conceptual approach that we presented last fall, we had 6 organizing principles, and I'll run through them again very quickly, simply to invite your feedback on the importance of those principles. The first principle that we believe is super important is that whatever we do here should be relatively simple and serene and do everything it can to celebrate, magnify, and amplify and leverage all of the magnificent views that we have here. And again, we can say that those views are special, but remember, they're not all that special. There's also, they could be better. They could be made better. They could be experienced in a more dramatic way. So in this diagram, we're showing the idea of making sure that the visual vistas out of the Presidio from the main parade grounds and the main post are clear vistas out to the bay, and that there's a 360-degree panorama that's afforded by being on this new raised platform over the tunnels. So the first principle is to preserve and open all of the views, and you can see in the site plan here a relatively simple terrain with a series of promontories and overlooks that celebrate these different vistas and vantage points across the site. One of them is organized on the main axis of the parade ground, simply keeping that view open and maintaining a good scale. Bringing you out onto the tunnel tops themselves as largely expansive open areas where people can have very clear open horizon lines and views. To a series of promontories where the terrace meets the bluff, where we can create a series of promontory-like overlooks. In this particular case, on the western overlook, which is focused on a view to the Golden Gate Bridge, we propose a sort of cantilevered walk that would actually take you out over the bluff and over the space below, a sort of taking your body off terra firma and out and into the space of the bay, and even into the space of the atmosphere, if you will. We hope that the fogs will roll in and you'll be able to come out onto this overlook and have a dramatic exposure to the atmosphere and to the weather, as well as to the view and to the land. In the center, we have a sort of looking glass idea, a sort of reflective mirror. That means that if you were sitting where those people are sitting, with your back now to the wind in a wind-protected seated alcove, you could be looking past the mirror into the Presidio, into the main post, but in the mirror would be all of the landscape behind you. So you would be seeing a 360-degree panorama in one seated view. This actually has a long tradition in landscape painting and landscape tradition, where many painters would actually use a beveled mirror as part of the technique to get a larger panorama in order to paint a larger panorama behind them. And then the eastern overlook is oriented towards the view towards Alcatraz, and again, because of the elevation here over the tunnel tops, you'll get a very clear view back to the city and back to the city skyline. In the middle of our proposal is a new idea for a new observation post. We envision this as really 2 sloping lawns that people can walk on and get even higher views and vistas. And beneath those lawns would be 2 glass-enclosed spaces that could have various facilities and various amenities. Initially public restrooms and a visitor center and visitor orientation space, as well as perhaps a cafe and a restaurant, perhaps a meeting facility or an exhibition space of some sort, or we even heard today the idea of perhaps a winter garden. And we see the observation post as really being built into the earth, so it has an kind of earthwork quality to it, with two spaces flanking the axis that you would walk through, and then from within those spaces you have clear picture windows to the remarkable views beyond. And those picture windows in this idea would be open and closable in order to allow movable tables and chairs and activities that are inside to come outside. And so you have a permeable relationship there. You see in this technical section here how they're built into the earth, so they're relatively modest visually, but they do not impact the tunnel structurally, so that everything that we're proposing here is very practical and cost-effective in terms of how it meets the existing tunnel. So the first objective is really to maximize the views, maximize the scenic experiences of the place, and create a series of overlooks and a series of experiences that dramatize the surroundings. The second principle is connection and extension, trying to look for ways to make sure that we're maximizing how to get from Crissy Field up to the Presidio, and down from the Presidio to the marsh and to the marina. So on the one hand, this sort of east-west movement, both connecting the lowlands to the uplands, as well as the east-west through the Presidio. And importantly, this northwest connection from Inspiration Point and the hilltops all the way down through the main post, along Anser Esplanade, down and out all the way to the bay. So this crosshair of connectivity to make sure that people who are cycling and strolling and enjoying the bayfront feel invited and welcomed to take the turn and come up to the upper Presidio parklands, and vice versa, people who are in the parklands to make it feel natural and welcoming and inviting to come down to the bay, and to have that connection that hitherto has not been available. So this diagram here, you see the internal east-west connection to the Presidio, a sort of a big loop here that connects Crissy Field and the bay to the upper park and down again to the marsh and the marina, and Anser Esplanade extended from the main post all the way down to the bay and down to the promenade. We see these as being pathways that are colored with people, with cycles, with people enjoying health and recreation activities, as well as using these pathways to explore and discover the different places of the park. This diagram shows, again in blue, the idea of what we call the cliff walk, which would walk along the top of the plateau, and Anser Esplanade with a series of rooms and spaces along that line. And again, you see it in this diagram. This is envisioning Anser Esplanade. This is an existing stand of Monterey cypress trees that we think could be improved and opened up and made a new center point on the Esplanade. And then the cliff walk has a more dreamy, kind of loose and informal character with a series of places to sit and enjoy the views looking out to the bay. The bluff walk is the arcing pathway that works its way down the bluff to bring you down to the lower level landscapes in the Crissy Field Learning Center area. We also use these lines to do a couple of other things. With Anser Esplanade, we see the point of the possibility to make Anser Esplanade the main armature along which the historical story of this place can be told. As if you're walking along the Esplanade and information and educational opportunities are presented along it to convey the sort of storyline and the timeline of this place. So we know that this is a very important historical place, both geographically, in terms of Native American peoples. The military history is really extraordinary. And the continued storytelling tradition and educational programming that happens here is very important, and something that we believe can be concentrated really along a new and remade esplanade and brought into a concentration in the center of this new park. That location we call the Zocalo. The Zocalo is a place between the new visitor center and the transit center with this existing stand of Monterey cypress trees. It's presently a parking lot, not attractive. There's trash receptacles and backs of buildings. We would clear all of that out and create a new public space here, a public square. Zocalo is Spanish for the center of a public space. It's actually the symbolic location where the cardinal lines intersect. And it has significance for Hispanic towns because it's really where the people collect, where people come together. So we're playing on this idea as this being the Zocalo where people will meet. They'll be oriented to the opportunities of this place. There's opportunities for education and for learning about the history of this place. And because of the trees, we think it could be a very special and beautiful and serene place too, but a very important place for many of the programs that go on here in terms of education and outreach to be centered and to begin the journey. The fourth principle is to enhance the ecology of the site. As I mentioned at the beginning, ecology is a very important component to this landscape. When you talk about ecology, you need to talk about it at this scale, because everything here is, the key concept of ecology is everything's interrelated. You can't look at things in isolation. The behavior of the water in the bay and the beaches and the wetlands is influential in terms of what's happening in terms of the habitat and the species structure and the community structure of the uplands. So everything here is one big ecosystem, all interrelated, and whatever we do has to understand and take that into account. We do see that the restoration of our new bluff, the bluff is where the terrace meets the lower level with a new escarpment. This will be a made escarpment, but planted with a mix of planting that will reinstate the escarpment bluff landscape characteristic of the coast. We're exploring the possibility of upland meadows in the upper area with taller grasses that will blow in the breezes. And so it'll be a little bit like being a prairie wheat field in terms of the sort of soft and graceful textural effects. This is coming down the bluff walk and having contact with the various plantings, and down in the lower level by the Crissy Field Learning Center, a series of dune gardens that capture the character of Crissy Marsh. Fifth, the idea of play and learning, especially in that area around the Crissy Field Learning Center. An important program here is inviting city youth to come here to learn about nature, learn about ecology and history, but also just what it means to be in a large natural setting, to be able to play and interact and learn about life in this kind of place. We see this as being a place where there will be a variety of interactive settings, interactive gardens, places where children can play, where they can discover, where there can be outdoor classrooms and outdoor learning in collaboration with the Crissy Field Youth Learning Center. It's also a place we see the possibility for art to be something that's played out in process, where artists can do outdoor works, and as they're working, it's something that can be on display and where children can play. And finally, the importance of this place as a place to host community and events and activities. We see the possibility for the Zocalo being capable of being staged for markets, for festivals, for gathering community events, possibly for light art installations in the nighttime. The possibilities of the West Lawn on the one hand to just be a place to picnic and sit and fly a kite and enjoy the weather, but also to set up cabanas or even a place to camp, gaze at the night sky, have large-scale art, making events. Over on the axis with Anser Esplanade is a sort of informal amphitheater. It's a stepped earthwork, protected from the wind, where people can sit and enjoy a view to Alcatraz on grass terraces, a place for picnics, a place for people to meet, but also to provoke impromptu performances and theater, and go into the evening hours. So there we have it, this sort of approach that will evolve over the next few months as we engage more and more of you in workshops and listen to your ideas and thoughts about what this place should be. But in many ways, we were putting on the table the idea that this should be a new center point, a new place, a new locus, a new exclamation point in the context of everything that's around it. A place that magnifies and leverages and connects all of these wonderful resources that are presently disconnected and disparate. We want to recognize the importance of this park in relationship to the city. Look at the proximity here of our new sort of center point, not only in relationship to the spaces we've been describing in the Presidio Parklands, but also in relationship to the city, to San Francisco, a city of over 7 million people, myriad cultures, myriad social groups. How can this become a sort of center point in the context of the life and soul and psychology of the city? And one of the themes that we were promoting was this idea of calling this Presidio Point a place that's an open and democratic platform, a place to build new forms of community, new forms of interaction, new forms of engagement. Now, since we were selected, we've of course been debriefed with things that have been received very positively and things that need work. Some of the things that we've heard that are positive is a general approval of the relative serenity or simplicity of the approach, a nice seamless integration of the Presidio uplands with the Crissy Marsh and bayfront landscape, strong circulation and connectivity, attractive and varied types of space for different interest groups, great overlooks and vista points, the Zocalo an attractive central hub, and open and simple and flexible. On the other hand, there's a number of things that we're going to have to continue to work on, and these are the things that we'll be looking at over the next few weeks and months. One of them is how to really get improved connections on these two locations where our big loop path that we want to have a strong joint to Crissy Field and the Bay here, and a strong joint with Crissy Marsh and the Marina. These two locations need a lot of work to think about how we can make those in a way that's safe, that's welcoming, that's inviting, and that's strong and definitive in terms of ensuring what we want, which is a seamless connection between these two territories. A second thing that is undergoing a lot more work and thought is Crissy Field Centre and the immediate environment around that in terms of what the program for that building will be and what the relationship of that building to its surrounding environment will be. A third, we did have a large lawn here. We called it the West Lawn. and on the eastern side is where we were proposing the big sort of wheat field meadow. There's a lot of questions about the ethics of a lawn in an arid climate, sustainability issues, the utility of a lawn given that there's so much lawn in the main post and down at Crissy Field, and whether or not this landscape might have a more horticultural program, be more of a garden. So that's something that we'll be exploring too. Fourthly is stronger integration here in the Zoccolo area between the new visitor center and the transit center, and just looking at that area in a lot more detail to ensure that that is an active and vibrant and attractive and welcoming center point. Fifth, whether or not the observation post, as I showed you, with the two butterfly wings, whether that is within the budget that we have or not. Probably not at the moment. And if it's not, then what do we do in its place? If we are able to find funds for it, what should it be programmatically? So there's a number of open questions here that are going to ensure that this plan continues to evolve over the next few weeks and months. And therefore, there's an open invitation to all of you to join in the discussion, to participate, to share your own ideas. We have a number of workshops coming up. The workshops are planned on a monthly basis. In one more month, we'll be back again doing a participatory workshop where I hope you can all come and sit around tables in groups, and there'll be a series of participatory exercises to explore programming and activity uses. The month after, we'll be looking at other details and so on. So this is an ongoing process. This evening, we've actually put some boards at the back just to begin this sort of process. Some of those boards describe what I've just described in a more format. There'll be people from my team as well as from the Trust standing by those boards to answer questions and to engage you in discussion. There's also a series of boards where we invite you to put a pin in it. We're curious as to where you might put a pin on this map to represent what is for you your favorite place. We want you to understand this as one large park. So some of you might only use this part of the park, you love this part of the park, or you love this part, or you love this part. And we want you to try to think about this as one large park with many different types of places, and given that context, which would be some of your favored locations. And then we have another board, we put a dot on it. You get one of these sticky dots, and you can put a dot on what you think are some of the most appealing activities that you would most like to do in this new parkland. And we've split this up into 6 categories that we think represent most of the user groups and user interests here. On the one hand, those of you that are interested in nature and ecology, or in history, or in scenery and vista, community and event, interaction and play, health and fitness. And then along the board keeps going, there are all sorts of specific uses within those general categories. And we're interested at the end of the evening, which box has the most dots in it, which would seem to be the most popular boxes, what would seem to be the least popular boxes. It's a useful and playful way for us to begin to gauge real interest in use and program. We also have another board where you can put a dot on it for particular places within the park where you like to spend the bulk of your time. And a photo op where you can stand by the photo with a chalkboard, write a comment on the chalkboard, take a photograph on a Polaroid. The Polaroids will all be collected, and we'll collect all of this stuff. What's good about this is when we come back in a month, we'll show you what you all did, and we'll take a photograph of your photographs and your pin boards and your sticky boards and the ideas that you convey to us. We'll play that all back to you in February, and then you can all fight amongst yourselves about who got it right and who was off base. And then you can also tell us what you think with these comment cards that you picked up when you came in. Please feel free to write comments, contribute ideas, hopefully constructive and positive, and not necessarily snarky and cynical, but something that can help us clarify and advance the work and understand where the important priorities are and where the less important things are. And just by way of concluding this, again, tonight we're not starting. We've been at this for 8 months, and we've met a lot of people, and we've heard a lot of things, and I think everything I'm trying to convey is hopefully reflective of a lot of things we've heard. But we did, last week, just interview a few of you out in the field. And where's the sound?
Nature, grass everywhere. It's very safe, and there's a lot of open space.
I do fishing around here, and I walk around the wood area a little bit. I look for mushrooms.
We love everything over here so far, but it's too much buildings though. You need greens, you need other stuff,
If I could design my own park, I'd have a lot of fruits and vegetables. I'd have flowers.
There would be stuff for kids, there would be stuff for adults, fishing available, maybe boating available.
I would put nutrition spots there, snacks, healthy snacks, teach kids about the important facts of being active, eating healthy, and just make sure you have fun.
I'm a swimmer, so I would like to have swimming pool.
I'd have a space where people can come and learn about Earth.
Exercise equipment.
Jungle gyms, and then just teaching kids how to be active. Yeah.
So no shortage of opinions. We welcome you all. Thank you.